Well, it's happened. Joe Biden has finally picked his vice president, announcing it on Twitter, and it's Kamala Harris. It's pretty much the person that I thought was going to be for the past few months, though in this last week or so, I was getting worried it was going to be Susan Rice. Not that Kamala Harris is a great pick. She's not. But out of the people that Biden had in his top four, Rice would have been the worst choice. So at least he didn't go with that. But let's get to this announcement. I'm also going to go over a little of Kamala Harris's history, and I'll also take your chats, your super chats as well, to get your thoughts on this and all that fun stuff. I'll also have some clips to remind you of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, what happened in that first debate a year ago. But here you go, Biden announcing it. I have the great honor to announce that I've picked Kamala Harris, a fearless fighter for the little guy, okay, one of the country's finest public servants, as my running mate. He goes on to say, back when Kamala was Attorney General, she worked closely with Beau. I watched as they took on the big banks, lifted up working people, and protected women and kids from abuse. I will get to something relating to this in a minute. I was proud then, and I'm proud now to have her as my partner in this campaign. All right, I'm just going to do one more refresh in case he added any more tweets to this. Doesn't appear he did. Okay. Well, there we go. That's the announcement. Yeah. It's almost like they threw Susan Rice in there to make us, all worried at the last second that I was going to be somebody that was even worse. I mean, Susan Rice had investments in fossil fuels up until very recently. Investments in fossil fuels supported, all the most recent U.S.-backed wars. So, not that Kamala, is much better, but this is why before I get to all the history and stuff here, this is why I felt fairly confident that it was going to be Kamala Harris. She had already essentially been publicly vetted. So we have already gone over her history when it comes to, her history as the top cop. It's already been debated, been exposed. It's nothing, I'm fairly certain there's not going to be anything new coming out of that. So in terms of having to worry about how that pick may be attacked, because this is how the Democratic Party consultants always think about these things is, how are we going to be attacked by Republicans? Well, with Kamala Harris, they may try and bring up some of these left-wing attacks as a way to try and suppress the progressive base in coming out. But it doesn't really help their argument in terms of trying to, sell the country on Donald Trump and Mike Pence. And anything they bring up is not going to be anything new. It's going to be stuff we've already seen. They may even use, the clips from that first debate to try and show how Kamala Harris was attacking Joe Biden's record. But again, these were debates that were national. People already saw them. It's not new information. The thing that oftentimes these campaigns worry about is what new thing will come up that we're going to have to deal with this vice presidential pick. So in terms of that, because that's the way that these consultants think, I think they made the calculation and made the suggestion to Joe Biden that, hey, with Kamala Harris, there's really less to worry about in terms of those kinds of attacks, those new attacks coming up and making big news, because we already know Kamala was vetted. publicly when she was running for president. I'll get some of your I'm seeing some funny super chats pop up. I'll get to them in a minute here, but I want to go through some stuff here. So this is recent. I covered this was another indication to me that Kamala was definitely at least in the top, and potentially already picked at this point. But Connor O'Brien had tweeted out here, at least 21 Dems voted against the Sanders defense budget cut amendment. So this was the Bernie Sanders amendment pushing to cut 10% of the Pentagon budget. And you look at the people that voted against it, a lot of them aren't really surprises. Joe Manchin, for example, Tim Kaine. But then you see here Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris voting against cutting the Pentagon budget. So that fits right in line with the Joe Biden campaign and Joe Biden's approach to the issue of foreign policy. So you can see here, either she was already picked at this point, or Harris was considering how this vote may appear. Because, in the past, Harris has at least tried to pretend to be somewhat a little more progressive on some issues. She was a co-sponsor of the Medicare for All bill, and then we all saw how she completely backtracked on all of that and never actually backed Medicare for All. But she will try and make moments like that to make it appear that she's something that she's not. But a vote like this is just a horrible vote. So clearly, I think she saw that she had the potential here to still be Biden's VP, and maybe this was one of the ways to try and fall in line behind the typical Joe Biden agenda. Now, I collected a bunch of links here over some of my past videos on Harris's record. Just a little reminder here. Now, before I go through this, I'm under no illusion. In case you're new to this channel, yes, Donald Trump is the absolute worst and needs to be taken out. That said, we have to be honest about the Joe Biden ticket and what it represents. So we can't pretend this part doesn't exist. As I've said before, the way I'm seeing this election is you should be voting for who you want to fight, because you have two choices here that are total garbage. You should be voting for who you want to fight. And I see the Democratic Party as an incredibly weak party, a Joe Biden presidency as being weak again, because they have no real, when it comes to what Democratic voters actually want, if you look at in terms of, raising taxes on the wealthy, in terms of Medicare for All, in terms of ending the wars, the majority of Democratic voters are on the side of progressive policy. So if you have a Joe Biden campaign that continues to represent this more conservative, pro-corporate Democratic agenda, it's going to be a lot easier to build a unified left-wing progressive base to fight that, because Joe Biden's not pretending to be anything that he's not. So unlike Barack Obama in 2008, he was pretending hope and change. He was a great politician in terms of being able to give these grandiose speeches, gave people a lot of hope in his candidacy and in him in his first couple of years. But because of that, he put a lot of people to sleep. A lot of people just assumed, well, he said all these great things during the campaign, he must be fighting for us, right? Well, he wasn't. But with Joe Biden, there's no illusions here. Everyone knows exactly who Joe Biden is. You see his record. You see what he's fighting for now. He's not fighting for hope and change. So from the beginning, there was no, there was a clear indication about who Joe Biden actually is and what he's going to be doing as president. So from the beginning, you'll be able to form and continue to build this movement, and hopefully the protests as well continue. But you see here, so Joe Biden mentions Kamala Harris protected women and kids from abuse. Well, yeah, she also laughed about jailing parents over truancy. So, and if you want deeper dives on these things, these are taken from my past videos. If you just search Kamala Harris on my channel, you'll find other videos that are more focused on Kamala Harris and these specific things. But that's one example. Here's another one. Kamala Harris fails to explain why she didn't prosecute Steve Mnuchin's bank. So while she's going after parents of truant kids, she's leaving people like Steve Mnuchin alone. This from Daily Beast. Kamala Harris's AG office tried to keep inmates locked up for cheap labor. This was another story that blew up last year, again, when Kamala Harris was just launching her campaign or was about to get in the race. This from Business Insider. Kamala Harris once pushed for steeper cash bail costs, saying people come to San Francisco to commit crimes because it's cheaper to do it. Yeah. This from Page 6. Dems rising star meets with Clinton inner circle in the Hamptons. So when Kamala Harris was early on considering a run back in 2017, she was meeting closely with Hillary Clinton donors. This is the company she keeps, much of the same company that Joe Biden keeps. So again, we're talking about they have a unified vision when it comes to what they have fought for, what they represent in terms of their role in public life. So fits right in here with Joe Biden. Now, let me get to some clips. Actually, let me get to this one first. So this is 2019, July 20, so about a year ago. This is Cornel West talking about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Essentially, as I say here, takes down Joe Biden and Kamala Harris on CNN.
Raveling.
Hold up. Get this volume up here.
When you look at the Bernie Sanders campaign, what do you see? Major contributors, Walmart workers, major contributors, teachers, Biden, Harris, Buttigieg, major contributors, elites, those at the top. It's a very different orientation. We are witnessing the awakening of poor and working people of all colors coming together in solidarity to save this democracy, given the political pathology at work in the White House.
All right. Look at that guy's hair. What was he thinking? But anyways, Cornel West, bang on as always. Whenever Cornel West appears on television, it's worth watching. But yeah, this just goes off the last point here of what Kamala Harris represents. Now, let's remind ourselves of this moment during the debate. Now, look, I'm going to criticize Kamala as I just was, but I'm also going to be honest about what she can bring to this ticket. And that's some energy, some fight. Now, that doesn't mean fight for the average person. That just means fight against Republicans. She has the ability and has shown this not just in debates, but also in hearings where she's Brett Kavanaugh, how she completely took down Brett Kavanaugh when he was faced up against her. You're going to see another example here of what Kamala Harris can do. Now, this is against Joe Biden, but you can imagine this with Mike Pence in a VP debate. I'm pretty excited about seeing that. So, Kamala Harris, again, not trying to erase her record. I just showed you her record. But we also have to be honest about the political talent that she's able to bring to the table when it comes to simply fighting Republicans. But, of course, she is, vapid when it comes to fighting for people. But we got to watch this little reminder here on what went on in this debate.
We have also heard, and I'm going to now direct this at Vice President Biden, I do not believe you are a racist. And I agree with you when you commit yourself to the importance of finding common ground. But I also believe, and it's personal, and I was actually it was hurtful to hear you talk about the reputations of two United States senators who built their reputations and career on the segregation of race in this country. And it was not only that, but you also worked with them to oppose busing. And, there was a little girl in California who was part of the second class to integrate her public schools. And she was bused to school every day. And that little girl was me. So I will tell you that on this subject, it cannot be an intellectual debate among Democrats. We have to take it seriously. We have to act swiftly. As Attorney General of California, I was very proud to put in place a requirement that all my special agents would wear body cameras and keep those cameras on.
Senator Harris.
All right. I just, in case you noticed, I laughed at one point. So, like, Biden turns his head here like he's shocked. You were the little girl? Oh my God. But this was a moment. Kamala Harris owned that first debate. That was her debate. She took down Joe Biden. Now, didn't really take him down, as ultimately he became the nominee, but took him down in that moment. Kamala Harris has the political talent to have moments like this that do matter, that can make a difference. So I hope she's able to take that energy when it comes to fighting Trump and the administration on the coronavirus. Hopefully, when it comes to the protests in the street and Trump's violent response to those as well. But look, this is Kamala Harris offers something in that moment there. Now let me see if there's more to this. I forget. I think there is. Okay, let's see what this is. Destroyed his campaign.
In terms of busing, you would have been able to go to school the same exact way because it was a local decision made by your city council. That's fine. That's one of the things I argued for, that we should be breaking down these lines. But so the bottom line here is, look, everything I've done in my career, I ran because of civil rights. I continue to think we have to make fundamental changes in civil rights. And those civil rights, by the way, include not just only African Americans, but the LGBT community.
But Vice President Biden, do you agree today that you were wrong to oppose busing in America then?
No,
do you agree?
I did not oppose busing in America. What I opposed is busing ordered by the Department of Education. That's what I opposed.
Well, there was a failure of states to integrate public schools in America. I was part of the second class to integrate Berkeley, California public schools almost 2 decades after Brown v. Board of Education.
Because your city council made that decision. It was a local decision.
So that's where the federal government must step in. That's why we have the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. That's why we need to pass the Equality Act. That's why we need to pass the ERA, because there are moments in history where states fail to preserve the civil rights of all people.
I have supported the ERA from the very beginning when I ran for the
Biden, 30 seconds, because I want to bring other people into this.
I supported the ERA from the very beginning. I'm the guy that extended the Voting Rights Act for 25 years.
Okay, I think the rest is just Biden. But, I have to also mention, I forgot to mention this earlier in that first moment, but this was pre-planned. The Kamala Harris campaign already had T-shirts printed. I think that said "that little girl was me" or something to that effect. Because it's not to take away from the moment. Because look, it was a solid moment, but when you can plan something like this, then certain politicians are better at these sorts of moments that are pre-planned. Others are better on their feet. I'm not sure how solid Kamala Harris is on her feet, as when we see her questioned, saw it even when she was on Stephen Colbert's show, and she was asked about, now I forget what she was asked about, but she was asked about something where, about how she felt about how she was attacking Joe Biden in the past, and how can you enthusiastically endorse him now when you were going after him in that debate? And she basically laughed and said, "Oh, it was a debate, haha." And she just didn't look good in that moment. I mean, she came off as very phony, as just your typical politician, which of course she is. But if she was a better politician, she'd be able to hide that side of her. But she's not all that great on her feet. When you saw her on CNN with Jake Tapper, when she was pushed on Medicare for All, she, again, does this thing where she laughs to try and make the moment a little more lighter. But the reality is she's laughing to hide the fact that she has a hard time answering serious questions. So that's where I worry about her political skills when it comes to what she can bring to the campaign, or going into the future into a White House. Can she be good on her feet? And you know what? You also have to think about this in terms of the left and progressives. because we have two politicians here who have serious weaknesses, it makes it a lot easier for us to make our case. It makes it a lot easier to fight this administration. There was no Obama on this ticket. Obama is a uniquely talented politician, was able to, be solid on his feet and be solid when it came to prepared speeches. We got holes. There are holes in this ticket. They just are not as talented as Barack Obama was. So it's going to be a lot easier to build energy and a fight to push this White House and push the Democratic Party into a position where people, push them to offer more help to people. Because look, when Biden takes over, things aren't going to magically get better. There's still going to be an eviction crisis, still going to be massive wealth inequality, still going to be millions and millions and millions without health care. That isn't just going to go away when Joe Biden becomes the president. So there'll be even more pressure on the Democratic Party, because once Trump's out of the way, guess what? There's no more excuses. What are people going to say at that point? How can they possibly defend themselves against millions having no health care, still feeling the effects of the pandemic likely still going on, the unemployment rate still at an all-time high, people without any real financial assistance, that's still going to be going on. People are going to bring the fight. So because they are weak in that sense, then there's going to be more opportunity to poke holes in their arguments and build a movement. All right, now let me take some chats here. I saw some popping up. I'll grab your super chats. And I'm not going to be here too long, but if we got time, I'll also grab some random chats as well. And try and keep the discussion to, look, you can obviously super chat whatever you want, but ideally, we can keep it to the discussion around Biden and the VP, or how the left can potentially build and grow off of this campaign and administration. All right, many super chats here. Cool. All right. Andrew Dwyer says, Ro Khanna for Senate. Let's make it happen. Great point. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes, there's now going to be a spot in California. So Ro Khanna for Senate would be fantastic. I hope he goes for that. That'd be awesome. Ben Riley says, Dave, could you please just kill me now and get it over with? No, Ben, I will not. We need you in this fight. Stick with it. Jack F says, oh no, would a Biden/Harris administration improve your life? That answer is maybe for most workers. I don't think that's good enough to inspire voters. So I agree with you. This election it's not about an inspiring ticket. It's just not. It's about getting Trump out. So a lot of people right now are motivated simply by Donald Trump. This is really a rare case in an election where enthusiasm doesn't mean as much as it normally does. So, back in 2016, Hillary Clinton had, actually, to reframe this, Hillary Clinton had higher enthusiasm numbers in 2016 than Joe Biden does right now. Now, normally that would spell disaster for this campaign. But people are instead enthused by their hatred of Donald Trump. So that's at an all-time high. That is what is pushing this Joe Biden campaign forward. It's not excitement or enthusiasm for Joe Biden. It's the excitement to get Trump out of office. So this is a rare case where the incumbent is hated so heavily, is hated by so many people, that the real enthusiasm gap is in simply the enthusiasm against Trump as opposed to for Joe Biden. Fonjo says, so me and a bunch of Latinos aren't voting for Biden because of our hatred for Harris. All right. Olivia Larson, thank you for the super chat. Melissa H. says Biden will resign by the end of 2021. Harris becomes POTUS. She picks Mayor Pete as VP. He breezes through the confirmation. Dem identity politics dream. That would be a identity politics dream for those wealthy Democrats that don't look at anything at all except simply the identity of people. But I think there is potential there to fight that. I do agree with you that I don't think Biden's going to. I don't know about the end of 2021, though. You know what? You might not be wrong based on how Joe Biden's been acting. But I think it's fair to say that Joe Biden's not going to go past 4 years. I think it's going to be a 4-year administration. Again, assuming he wins, but I think he'd be there for 4 years, and then Harris likely to take over, and she should face a primary challenge. That isn't to say that she would lose. She likely wouldn't lose a primary challenge, simply because, you know, when you're the vice president, you have sort of a incumbency yourself. Even though you weren't the president, the fact that you're VP you're heavily favored to be the nominee. But a challenge from the left to Kamala Harris will, at the very least, pull her left rhetorically. Now, would she actually push for any of the things that she maybe pulled left towards? I don't know. Unlikely. But, you know, if it's somebody solid, somebody really good, like, I don't know, someone with a lot of popularity, someone that has the ability to capture the excitement of voters, and especially if Joe Biden and his administration have not done enough for people at the end of 4 years, you have someone like AOC, Nina Turner, someone like that challenging Kamala Harris. There is potential there. Now, it's unlikely, especially someone like, you know, I don't see AOC doing it, as she is in Congress and a Democrat. I think she would see it as potential political suicide, even though it wouldn't be. I think it would actually invigorate support for her. But someone like Nina Turner, who is, you know, outside of Congress but still a vocal fighter for these issues, I would love to see a challenge like that against. But I mean, we're so far removed from that happening. That's 4 years away potentially. But hopefully, if Harris does take over and become the nominee in 2024, there is a challenge to her. Fonjo says we're going green. That's it. That's a continuation of the bunch of Latinos that aren't voting for Biden. All right. Ryan Nowicki says, given DNC and GOP establishment will squash a progressive POTUS, wouldn't it be prudent to guide more progressive grassroots donations to Congress/Senate first to consolidate just Democrats' power? Given DNC and GOP establishment squash a progressive POTUS, wouldn't it be? Are you simply saying, wouldn't it be more prudent to guide more progressive grassroots donations to Congress, Senate first? Do you mean over the ticket? Yeah, of course. I don't think you should give this ticket any money. I mean, that's just my opinion. They also don't need it. Like, this is what is so, I don't know. I mean, I can go back to, this reminds me of Elizabeth Warren when she discussed how she wasn't taking any big donor money, even though eventually, she had a super PAC. But at the time, she was saying she wasn't going to take any big donor money in the primary. But then once we get to the election, well, then she has to take it. Why? When at that point, once you're the nominee, people know it's the Democrat or the Republican. You don't need more money in a general election race because people know it's you or the other person. So, yeah, don't give them any money. There's no reason to give these people any small dollars. They have enough big donor money coming in. So when it comes to grassroots donations, yes, of course, focus on Congress and Senate. And preferably people that are simply reliant on small donors and not candidates that take big dollars. Joanna Bram says 2020, insinuate your opponent is racist with some busing crap, get picked as his VP. What the hell? Did I miss something? You didn't miss anything. This is politics. This is how these politicians, most of them, operate. They do whatever is politically expedient at the time. So if it makes sense for them at that time, at this time, it made sense for Kamala Harris to attack Joe Biden, to try and take him down as Joe Biden was at the top in polling a year ago. That's what she did. So this is what these politicians do. They're very phony. Very, very phony. There are very few honest politicians out there. I mean, Bernie Sanders is the obvious when it comes to, I mean, you know exactly what's on his mind. You know what he's fighting for. Even when he backs Joe Biden, he talks about how him and Joe, we're very different in terms of what we support. So he's not going to pretend that he feels differently about Joe Biden's record or anything. He'll simply focus on Donald Trump, and that's what an honest politician would do. But most politicians are not all that honest. DVDV, thank you for your super chat. Isaiah Pisani says, can't stand hearing a Canuck with several political parties, universal health care, $2,000 month stimulus, tell Americans to go prop up corporate duopoly. I'm not telling you anything. Do whatever you want. We have a parliamentary system. It is a different system here. Voting works differently. We have an actual third party that has seats in the House. So if you had, a third party that was viable, that had, let's say it was the Green Party. There were members of Congress that were part of the Green Party. There were local officials. There were state officials, many of them part of the Green Party. Then, yeah, it would be a whole different situation. But when you think about building a party, doesn't it make sense to try and build support for that party first on a local and state level and maybe get some people in Congress first? To magically just every 4 years focus on the Green Party, it really doesn't make any sense. If you actually want to build a successful third party, you have to do it from the ground up. You can't do it from the top down. It hasn't worked. Has it worked? It hasn't worked. So you can, keep slamming your head against the wall every 4 years and expect a different result, but it's not going to happen. You have to build from the ground up. The real work for a third party is between elections. It's once December hits, that's when the work begins. So start fighting for people on the local level, at the state level. Get somebody in Congress. That's where that would be the best way to try and build a third party. But unfortunately, you don't live in a parliamentary system, a system that is more open to multiple parties. And this is also why, a lot of people focus simply on voting. You're missing 85% of the picture. Most of the fight when it comes to real change happens through movements. Like you look at civil rights, gay rights, whatever, any big change that's happened, it's not been because there's been, the right politician elected that's done it. No, it's been from the ground up, putting pressure on politicians, on people in power, putting pressure on them to do something. That's where actual change happens. It doesn't happen from the top down. Now, again, vote for whoever the hell you want. I'm making the case for what I think is rational. But if you're in New York or California, yeah, do whatever you want. If you're in New York or California, those are the only states that I really think are truly safe. I think a lot is up for grabs in this election. You're seeing Arizona, Texas, Georgia potentially be up for grabs. So look, if you're in New York, California, I totally get it. You can view voting differently and try and build the different party or vote for somebody else in those states. But I just think the most rational course of action in every other state is to look at this election not in terms of who you like, but in terms of who you want to fight. Do you want to fight Donald Trump and get nowhere? As we've seen, it's only gotten worse. We have to refight fights you've already won, like the Iran deal that he tore up, like DAPL that Trump restarted after Obama ended it. Or do you want to fight a incredibly weak party and a weak ticket? I'd rather fight a couple of weak politicians in the Democratic Party and the Democratic Party establishment than fight a neo-fascist regime. But that's me. DVDV, thank you for the super chat. SSM says, how, why, when, where, what the F? You were supposed to pick a VP we can trust. Biden, ha ha ha. Trump 2020 for show. Well, thank you for the super chat, but definitely do not agree with the last part of your chat there. All right, gonna grab these last super chats. I don't want to make this too long of a video because I do want people to, check out the news and Kamala Harris's record at the beginning of this video. But let me grab some chats here if I can find my place. All right, Neotail says, we're really going to have a dude who lost 2 pres bids plus only one as a Frankenstein candidate and someone who lost early on in the White House as VP, huh? Yep. Look, this is a... If anybody expected to be excited about this ticket, you were mistaken. It was over a long time ago. So, that's once Biden became the nominee, it was clear what the rest of this year was going to be like. Trudy says, if the opponent were anyone but Trump, I'd abstain. Yeah, that's a lot of people. Trump is the motivating factor for a lot of Americans, for sure. Gina McGrath says Biden / Harris equal crime bill 94 / top cop equals Trump. Biden and Harris are defund the police. Marxist who will abolish 911. Shows videos of his current America. It's almost like you're trying to communicate a campaign ad through this super chat. But that's kind of, if I can follow what you're saying here, and it's kind of tough. It's basically, yeah, Trump's strategy right now is to try and paint Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as these far left, Marxists, when clearly they're not. They don't support defund the police. They don't want to abolish 911. And their record is pretty clear with the crime bill and Kamala Harris being a top cop. Devin Nunes's Cow Matthews says Trump has a press conference going on in minutes. Of course he does. The Trump approach to all of this is try and distract with his own thing. That's kind of what Trump does. So it makes total sense. The Friendly Void says, won't Biden / Harris be more effective tyrants? No. The reason why is Trump is not really in control. It's the people that are behind him, like Bill Barr, Stephen Miller. I mean, we're talking about evil people here. Not that Biden and Harris aren't evil in their own right, but when it comes to a pandemic like this, you see the clear difference. In fact, I know I use this graph a lot, but it has to. I mean, it gives you the bigger picture in terms of what's been going on here. So, you just take a look at the difference. So even the UK is run by a conservative government, but they're not neo-fascist. This is Trump. This is the difference. And you think, oh, but what are you talking about? No. Neo-fascist? You mean like Brazil? Yeah, like Brazil. Jair Bolsonaro, another neo-fascist. This is the result when you have a government that really does not care about the people at all. Right now you have a lot more people that are dead from COVID-19 than would be otherwise if it was any other just typical neoliberal administration. That isn't to defend neoliberals. That is to say, though, that there is a clear difference. When your goal as an administration in Trump is fascism, it's different than an administration where their goal is not fascism. It may be, continued neoliberalism and continued wealth inequality and giving all the power to the people at the top of society, but when it comes to a pandemic like this, you see that there is a clear difference. And to completely ignore that, I just think it doesn't make any sense. But then you may say, oh, but Trump's only in power because of failed Democrats. Okay, I agree with you. But does Trump continuing to be in power solve anything? Like that's what I find so hilarious about this. Yes, I agree with you that neoliberalism has led to Trump. 100% agree with you. But that doesn't mean that Trump should stay in office 4 more years. Like, I don't know. How do you make that leap? So that's why, look, you can say some of the benefits over these past 4 years, they're few and far between, but some of the benefits, like a more reinvigorated Democratic Party with Justice Democrats, you can say, hey, look, that was a clear benefit over the past 4 years. You have AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Cori Bush going in, Jamal Bowman, more. Awesome. Yes, let's take those wins, and now let's actually begin to make some changes, starting with cutting off the tumor. So that's how I view this right now. You can acknowledge the positives that have come out of it, but also look at the negatives staring you in the face and understand that Trump staying in 4 more years, or potentially longer if he tries to, screw with the term limits, how does that benefit anything? I don't see how that would benefit anything. Back to that screenshot. Olivia Larson says, I think picking Kamala is good for the progressive movement. She's a lot more beatable than Clinton if she decides to run in 2024. I don't even know if I agree with you on that. I don't know if she's more beatable than Clinton, like in a primary, especially if she's been VP for 4 years. But I will say Kamala's not as bad as Hillary Clinton, so I guess that's a positive. But no, yeah, I hear what you're saying though. In terms of, you could argue Kamala doesn't have the machine behind her the way Hillary Clinton did. That's for sure. So I think that makes a difference. But I don't want to make too many predictions about 2024. Yeah, where it's too far ahead to really even know how that would play out. Jason Finfrock says it's time for a third party. It's been time for a while, dude. It's been time for a while. But in order to build one, you got to start at the local and state level and get somebody in Congress. Because otherwise it's hard to make the case. Jeff says, how do we keep the left from falling asleep under Biden-Harris like we did under Obama-Biden? I discussed this earlier, if you go back in the video, but you do it by keeping up the fight and understanding that Obama is not Joe Biden. Joe Biden is not Barack Obama. Obama played progressive. He fooled a lot of people in 2008 with hope and change. Joe Biden isn't even pretending to do that. Sure, they have the Joint Policy Task Force, but his campaign is not about hope and change. It's about returning to normal. They're normal. Normal being before Donald Trump, the situation that led to Donald Trump. But that's their normal. That's what he's trying to sell people on is, the good old days with Barack Obama. So from the start, there was no illusions about what this campaign is about, what this White House is about. This is status quo as status quo gets. So you keep the fight up by understanding how much energy there is right now, especially with young people, with Gen Z, and you see groups like the Sunrise Movement and how they've, just completely grown over the past couple of years. So that's how you keep the fight up. And I think we're going to see a lot of activism and fight from especially Gen Z and millennials when it comes to, they're beginning to be a larger voting bloc, obviously because they're getting older and are able to vote. So as they get older, more of them get into politics, they become more of a force. And that simply did not exist under Obama. Yes, there was, Occupy in 2011, but it was late into the administration already, a couple years in or a few years in. You really need this fight to start from the beginning. And I think it will, because you already see it in the street. And it's not going to simply go away because people's material conditions aren't going to simply improve when Biden becomes the president. Again, assuming that happens. But people's conditions aren't simply going to improve automatically. They're going to demand, in many ways you could say, demand even harder, even more of a Joe Biden administration because they know they can actually potentially get some concessions if they fight hard enough. Whereas with Trump, they're just going to be tear gassed and thrown in jail. So, which will, of course, still happen with Joe Biden, but not to the extent when it comes to like federal officers occupying, cities. That is a very uniquely neo-fascist thing. So keep the fight up. You simply keep it up and understand that Biden is not Obama. Davey, I don't know your last name. Davey Rabble says, I have like 20 minutes to think about this, but I think she's going to bring in more women in general, and Biden will stay in the basement, and she'll be a Cheney. There's potential there. The difference being George Bush. I think it's look. Biden clearly has limitations, but his limitations are simply that he's slower because he's an older man. George Bush's limitations were that he's just not a bright guy. He could be taken advantage of. It's a different situation. But if you mean that Harris could be a Cheney in the sense that she may be running a lot of things simply because of the state of Joe Biden, I think that there's a potential for that. I think that's a good point we're thinking about, but we do not know till they get in. Isang says if Kamala takes over, Tulsi Gabbard should primary her. I'm not sure if Tulsi Gabbard's the right person to do that. Tulsi Gabbard really quickly backed Joe Biden before Elizabeth Warren did. So let's just get things straight here. I'm not quite sure where Tulsi Gabbard fits on the spectrum. After Fractures says people who want a third party need to look into Canada. Yes, the NDP can put more pressure on libs to pass policy, but it does split the vote, and they haven't ever won. Would be even harder in the U.S. That's also a fair point. Look, I have hopes for the NDP in the future in Canada, but it's true. For the most part, they just tend to take away. I shouldn't even say take away, but the reality is in Canada there are two primarily conservative parties. The Liberals and the Conservatives are both conservative parties. The NDP is the only left party with any real power. There is the Greens as well, but the left have many more seats than the Greens do. So, but yeah, like the real energy, the real power comes when there is a minority government, as there is right now. So because Liberals don't have a majority, they actually have to work with other parties to get anything through. So that's when the NDP have been able to come in and really put pressure on the Liberals to pass things like that $2,000 a month CERB, which is not a UBI, by the way. I think someone said earlier it was a UBI. It's not a UBI. You have to apply for it. Many students are not able to apply for it and get it. It does cut a lot of people out, but for the most part, if you were impacted by the coronavirus or had to stay home to take care of your kids because of the virus, you do get that $2,000 a month from the CERB. But yeah, you could argue that it's simply taken votes away from liberals at times and helped conservatives. But that also assumes that those NDP votes would have automatically gone to liberals, which I don't think is fair to assume. It's the same issue I had with people claiming that, the Green Party sunk Hillary Clinton. There's no people that vote Green largely simply would have stayed home instead of voting for Hillary Clinton. So to just assume that those votes would have gone to Hillary, I think is wrong, just as I think it's wrong to assume that NDP votes would go to liberals. But, there's pluses and minuses to every system. I do think it's important, though. I think multiple parties have a place, and people's perspectives, ideologies should be represented in public. The Sing on the Left says she's my senator and she's worthless. Khanna 2022. Yes, let's hope Ro Khanna runs for that seat. Goodbye DNC says bad timing. Biden picked top cop for VP at a time when cops are very unpopular. Yeah, 100%. I'm with you. But it's also why I'm excited about the fight that we're going to be able to take to this administration. Because this energy is not going to simply go away. Isaiah Pisani says, post-election, will you raise third-party voices? Yeah, absolutely. If there are third-party voices, 100%. Devin Nunes is Cow Matthews says, in my area, the Saskatchewan Party has no challenger. How do I get involved with the NDP? I'm the wrong person to ask. I'm not an NDP rep. But just if you go to ndp.ca, I think is their website, put your name in. I think you can volunteer. And, same thing with Greens as well. Whatever party you support, you can go to their page. They have a volunteer page. Apply to volunteer, and I'm sure there's something you can do in your area. Miranda Juvon says, what a miserable choice. The campaign ads are already made. Just play Harris from the debates. She came at Joe the hardest / most effectively. Yeah, but any choice would have been miserable, really. Out of the choices that he had left, the only person I would have been okay with, because Nina Turner backed her, is Karen Bass. But apart from that, didn't really have much hope for this ticket. All right. Let me grab the last... there's still more coming in. Let me grab the last super chats here. It's about a minute delay, so if you want to get a chat in, get it in now before I get out of here. But Our Revolution MSU says Kamala beats Mike and Mother any day of the week. Simply C says it's time we vote green. Joey Kane says, David, I love your quarantine hair and the show. Thank you, Joey. Infinite Wolf says Bernie needs to be in the cabinet. He's not going to be, but I agree with you. John Crow says join, contribute, volunteer 2/4. And actually, to go back to the Bernie cabinet thing, it's almost better he's not. Because I think it makes the fight a lot easier and more effective if there is no potential quashing of any energy, because people may think, oh, but Bernie's in there, don't worry. Bernie's going to do things for us when, he's one man. One man can't do it all. So it's actually easier, I think, to fight the administration if Bernie's not in there. But if he's in there and he's allowed to do whatever the hell he wants, which would not be the scenario, but in some magical world where Bernie was in the cabinet and he had full agency over his position, yes, that would be ideal and amazing, but it seems very unlikely. John Crow says join / contribute / volunteers 2/4 DSA instead of parroting hopelessly about a third party people. Yeah, put your energy towards these groups that do exist. The DSA, look, they haven't backed Joe Biden, and I don't think they should. It's the Democratic Socialists. They got no reason to back Biden. So they got their own thing going on. They're building energy. That's where you put your energy, into movements. That once you understand voting as a tool, then you're able to view it as simply one of many tools. Voting is just, 25% of the equation. The rest of it is building energy, building movements, fighting locally, fighting statewide. That's where a lot of your energy can be put into to begin to plant seeds and grow something for the future and really build a true movement that has teeth. But voting every 4 years for the third party, that doesn't build towards anything. Again, yes, if you're in California, New York, whatever, do whatever the hell you want. And regardless, do whatever the hell you want. But I'm making the case to what I think is the most rational position. But clearly people disagree. I'm not going to fight you on that. There are many people. I ran as a Green Party candidate in Canada once. I get it. There are people out there that simply, they're not going to vote. They've made their minds up in the way they've made their minds up. They've lived their lives a certain way. But for them, voting is just a small piece of the puzzle. And a lot of their energy, their time is spent in groups like DSA or building other groups and or fighting for specific issues, whether locally or statewide. So if you're one of those people where you're an activist, you're heavily engaged, and voting is just a small piece of the puzzle for you, yeah, obviously, you've done a lot more than most people on here have. So It would be really dumb of me to try and fight you and tell you you're voting the wrong way. It'd be a waste of time. There is no wrong vote. You can vote however you like, whatever makes sense to you. What makes sense to me is if you are in most states, apart from, New York, California, that you want to vote for someone that you want to fight when you have two horrible choices. So I think it's easier to fight Biden than it is to fight Trump. Where was I? Ryan Burchett says, have you considered what will follow another failed neoliberal administration? President Tucker Carlson, for example. Yeah, of course, that's always a potential. But again, is that the argument for keeping Trump for 4 more years? Like, have you considered what 4 more years of Trump looks like? So this is the argument that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, yes, I completely am with you. Neoliberals 100%, it's undeniable. Neoliberals led to Donald Trump. That is 100% correct. That doesn't mean you should sit with Donald Trump and let this insanity continue. Let this insanity continue. I don't get the point of that argument. Like, you're in the shit right now. So to simply say, well, we only got in the shit because of this, and this, so you want to continue sitting in the shit? Like, I don't get what you're trying to say. Melinda Ortega says, I got nothing. Just want to help you out. Oh, thank you, Melinda. Miranda Juvon says, at the very least, Harris is really good at aggressive cross-examination/debate. She will shred Pence. It may mortally wound that big old pile of mayo. Yes, I discussed that earlier. I agree with you 100%. That is a talent that Kamala Harris does have, at least when she's able to prepare her remarks. But if she's asked questions on the spot, it can get a little hairy. All right. I believe this is the last chat of the day. Maphobic says, you are amazing. Oh, thank you. And thank you for the very generous super chat. All right. I think I'll here what this is all about. If you missed the beginning of this stream, I'm just checking the numbers here. Cool. A lot of people wanted to see this. All right. Well, if you missed the beginning of the stream, I went over Kamala Harris's record. So go back. You can rewatch that. Late super chat coming in now. Coming in just on time. There is a delay, as I said. So apologies if I go offline and I missed yours. But Riv Mitsu says, I think there is a wrong vote based on intentions of winning or losing. Climate and courts greater than all. There you go. That's the other argument, of course. It's harm reduction. When it comes to, first of all, there's, I think, another obvious harm reduction here. Every other friggin' country in the world except for neo-fascist countries. But yeah, there is an obvious and clear difference between Biden and Trump on the climate. Again, not that Biden's doing enough. Of course he's not. But there's a clear difference. And of course, on courts as well, when it comes to issues of, like abortion, a clear difference there as well. When it comes to the corporate stuff, we all know they're essentially one and the same. Some late ones here. All right, these are the last two. Amano Novinial, I'm sure I said that wrong, says, should the U.S. take a page from Canada's universal healthcare history and try passing first in a state like it first passed in Saskatchewan? Well, here's the thing. Why not both? Yes, try. There's no reason not to push for both that and Medicare for all at the same time. So, of course, try passing a universal system in whatever state is maybe able to do that. I know Vermont had tried, and I forget all the details, but it failed for some reason. You can try it, but also understand, like the beauty when it comes to a single payer system is that everybody's paying into it from all over the country. So yes, I guess in that same sense, it could still work in particular states, in an individual state. No reason why it wouldn't work, but you might as well get everybody in at once. Yeah, I'm not against that. Try pushing for whatever state is able to pass it, while also pushing for Medicare for all. Paul Hardister says, do you think Ben Shapiro will perform WAP at the GOP convention? I think he should do that. That would be a headliner. He should do that right before Trump comes out to accept the nomination. That'd be amazing. All right. We are good. Thank you all for coming. Again, I'll be here on Friday for the usual live stream. This was just a wanted to pop in here for this big news item. But thank you all for being here. Also, subscribe, follow, hit the bell icon so you're notified in the future when videos go live, as YouTube oftentimes suppresses independent voices. You'll know this because, if you watch one of my videos or someone else's videos that's doing independent commentary, you'll often be suggested afterwards, oh, check out this Fox News clip, check out this MSNBC clip, check out this Stephen Colbert clip, check out this Joe Rogan clip. That's every time I'm on YouTube and I watch a Mike Figueredo video. I'll watch his video. At the end of it, it'll be, now check out this video from Stephen Colbert. It's like, why? Why? Well, I never watch Stephen Colbert clips, but it always tries to funnel everybody into this corporate-friendly arena. So subscribing, hitting the bell icon is all we got left. That's all we got left. And, of course, thank you for all your super chats during the stream. And before I go, of course, rationalnational.com/join. That's the Patreon page. Or if you prefer, patreon.com/therationalnational. Links are below the video in the description box. Also, you could be a YouTube member, and there are other links there as well to support the show. But again, thank you all for showing up. Kamala Harris, Vice President. Pretty much what we all expected. See you all later.